It was a small leather pouch with a drawstring used for magic spells. I'd marked off the ingredients I'd found on the manuscript. It was a manuscript that looked hundreds of years old, with the instructions to a spell that summoned things hidden within. The fish had been dead for years, was primarily comprised of stuffing, and smelled faintly of formaldehyde. The cat wasn't going to be interested in it in the slightest. I needed to think of something else. The car's horn was attached to the side of the jalopy. The window looked into the church, if you could see through the decades of dust and grime. I could see the shadows of the rum runners moving around inside the church, but I didn't want to get too close in case they saw me, too. The jalopy door was locked. If the rum runners caught me breaking into their getaway car, I'd end up bundled up inside one of their barrels. Besides, from what I could see through the window, there was nothing worth taking. The blast of air may have dislodged some feathers, but there was no chance of them flying out the small opening. I needed to lure the chicken out. A pile of rotting wood lay at the side of the path. I needed to think of something else. The wood was old and rotting. It wasn't going to be of any use. And who knew what critters might have made their homes inside the pile? That wasn't going to work. I didn't need to pour water on that. I needed to think of something else. I couldn't do that. A large pond lay in front of the house, slowly being reclaimed by algae, weeds, and who knew what else. That wasn't going to work. That didn't work. I didn't want to make a hole in that. The fish was already ripped open along the seam. With the ripped seam as an opening, I placed the horseshoe inside the taxidermied fish. Now it was heavy. The taxidermied fish was far beyond my haberdashery skills to fix it. I needed to think of something else. The fish's ability to swim away was crucially hampered by the fact that it was taxidermied. A large pond lay. That didn't work. I needed to think of something else. That didn't work. I didn't want to make a hole in that. Nope. I didn't need to pour water on that. The shack door was too sturdy for me to pry open with the poker, but that still left another way in. The damp air of the bayou had swelled the window in its frame. It would need more force than my bare hands could supply to open it. That wasn't going to work. I needed to think of something else. I didn't. Nope. The fish's ability to swim away was crucially hampered by the fact that it was taxidermied. I didn't want to make a hole in that. The twine would be more useful to me intact. I didn't need to cut that. It was an aging water tower used to replenish the steam engine aboard the riverboat. I couldn't do that. On the wall of the fort was a rusting metal plaque attributed to the Devil's Rock Historical Society. I didn't want to make a hole in that. A barrel marked gunpowder was being rocked by the cat perched on top of it. The fish had been dead for years, was primarily comprised of stuffing, and smelled faintly of formaldehyde. The cat wasn't going to be interested in it in the slightest. The cat wasn't going to be interested in that. With the newly polished brooch gleaming, I angled it towards the lantern, catching the light and reflecting a red beam on the wall. I took a handful of the spilled gunpowder. I placed the gunpowder into the gree-gree. I took a handful of the spilled gunpowder. I already had some gunpowder. I already had some gunpowder. I decided to leave Ned to his fishing. I had more important things to do than fish. What do you think of my fish?
That's a whopper. Hang it on the scale and let's see what it weighs. Doubt it'll beat Squibb's record, though. Mac, does that say what I think it does? You been holding back on me. That breaks Squibb's record.
Squibb?
Jebediah Squibb, the Cajun catcher he calls himself. Last week at the dead of the docks, Squibb caught the heaviest pincosa on record. Got his photograph on the front page of the newspaper and everything.
McAllen! How does it feel to have decimated the town record in your first few hours on the island?
How did you hear about this so fast?
It's my job to know about things fast. Now, I'm asking the questions here. Where'd you get the fish, McAllen?
Well, it was a mighty battle on the southern coast. Its fins strong as a motor, its mouth as fierce as a tiger's. I paused dramatically to allow my fishing prowess to wash over them.
What rod did you use?
Wooden one?
I mean, what make?